But Ford Fiesta has been a best-selling car in the UK for many years, so you would have thought that a small SUV based on it would sell out like ice cream on a hot summer's day. Well, sadly, the previous Ford EcoSport didn't quite live up to its potential. I'm joined by the new one though, and I've been driving it this week to see what's what. The previous EcoSport was rather gawky looking if you ask me, particularly at the front end. Now the new model is leaner and meaner, especially if you select the ST line trim level as shown here. As part of this trim level, you get a black front grille, sporty body kit, 17-inch alloys, although these are the optional 18-inch alloys, and at the back you get an obligatory rear spoiler, which has got a rather nice chunkiness to it. Step inside and you'll find the ST line theme continues. You've got model specific scuff plates, sports pedals, this rather nice sporty steering wheel which is wrapped in leather and it has a flat bottom. You also get these seats which are trimmed in fabric and leather, and a gear knob which has black inserts on it. And overall the inside of the EcoSport is a nice place to be. You've also got this soft touch dashboard, and overall it's definitely an improvement on the last model. Selecting the correct EcoSport shouldn't be too difficult, as there are only 3 trim levels: Z-Tech, Titanium and ST Line. Z-Tech starts at £17,295 and is able to offer features such as smartphone connectivity, DAB radio, 6.5-inch touchscreen, 16-inch alloys, front fog lamps, air conditioning, plus front and rear electric windows. Pay £2,000 more and you'll get the Titanium model. This has 17-inch alloys, silver roof rails, automatic headlights, 8-inch touchscreen, navigation, rear parking camera, keyless start, cruise control, climate control and automatic wipers. And last but not least, you have the ST line, which starts at £20,095. This offers sports suspension, sporty styling, black contrasting roof and black roof rails. The model tested here is a bit smaller. It's £22,240 because it's got one of the more powerful engines. It's also got the optional shadow black paintwork, the optional 18-inch alloys, optional front parking sensors and the optional privacy glass as well. The EcoSport isn't the largest SUV in its class and therefore it isn't the most spacious. Now, space in the front is okay, although I would want a bit more elbow room because sometimes when I change gear I do find myself knocking into my passenger. But getting a good driving position is rather easy. The steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach, and the seat has also got a good level of adjustment as well. And what about cubby holes? Well, you've got 2 cup holders in the middle, as well as 1 or 2 other slots. Got a slot in front of the gear lever where I like to put the key or sometimes my smartphone. Door bins are of a decent size and you can fit a bottle of water in them. Plus you've got this compartment in the middle, which again offers a decent amount of space. It's quite deep, so it's not too bad at all. The glove box is of an alright size. It's not the largest, but it's also not the smallest. Now let's have a look at space in the back. The back is where things start to go downhill, particularly if you're tall like me. Now, as always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a tall guy, and the leg room left over isn't very good at all. And in truth, the headroom isn't much better either. Now, thankfully, I can fit my feet underneath the seat in front of me, so I can get a bit more comfortable. But either way, there isn't a lot of space back here for me. But I suppose that should come as little surprise because I did have a similar complaint with the new Ford Fiesta. However, if you are a child or a smaller adult, you should be absolutely fine in the back. And of course, you've got ISOFIX points as well. My only other complaint is that the rear door doesn't open that wide and getting out is a tad tricky. Now, annoyingly, Ford is stuck with the side opening tailgate for the new EcoSport, which isn't the most practical, particularly if you park in the street and another car parks behind you. And it also feels like it takes forever to open it. There we go. Once you do open it, you will find 356 litres at your disposal, which isn't the biggest in class, but it should be enough for your day-to-day activities. However, if you do need more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you over 1,200 litres worth of space, and the boot floor is also adjustable to make the car even more practical, he says. Oh, there we go. Now on paper, the choice of engines in the EcoSport does look to be rather limited, because you can either have a 1 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged EcoBoost petrol unit, or you can have a 4-cylinder 1.5 litre diesel. However, the EcoBoost is available in 3 power outputs, so you can either have 99 brake horsepower, 123 brake horsepower, or 138 brake horsepower. And in regards to the diesel, you can either have that with 99 brake horsepower or 123 brake horsepower. The engine I have is for 1 litre EcoBoost with 123 brake horsepower and 170 Newton meters of torque. It's mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is pretty slick. It's got a nice change to it, although I would want the throws to be a little bit shorter, but other than that, it's quite a sweet gearbox to use, I have to be honest. Now, if you don't want to have the 6-speed manual gearbox, then good news, you can have a 6-speed automatic if you prefer, but in truth, I think the manual is better. I had the 6-speed auto in a Fiesta I drove last year, and in truth, it was okay, but it wasn't fantastic. Now, you can also have this car with 4-wheel drive, but you would need to have the 1.5 litre diesel in order to do so. But let's face it, how many people actually take their SUVs off-road? It's not many, is it? Now, going back to this engine, so on paper it looks to be quite slow, if I'm honest. So it won't hit 62 miles per hour until 12.7 seconds, and the top speed is 111 miles per hour. Now, if you do go for the auto, the 0 to 62 time is a little bit quicker, but you will still have the same top speed. But in reality, on tarmac, this car doesn't feel that slow. The engine is zesty, it's fizzy, it's got a nice response to it. Power delivery comes in at just underneath 2,000 revs, and the delivery is quite linear. The engine is a decent cruiser as well. Once you're at speed, the engine barely makes any noise at all. Now let's talk about the ride. The last EcoSport, it was criticised for its rather unsettled, bumpy ride, and I've not driven the previous EcoSport, but I can tell you this EcoSport does appear to follow that theme. Now, of course, this car has got sports suspension, so this car will always be a little bit more jiggly anyway, but even so, the ride is unsettled most of the time, and of course, because of that sports suspension, the ride is firm as well. Is it firm enough to make this car uncomfortable? No, not at all. Now, of course, this car is based on the Ford Fiesta, therefore it should be quite special to drive. But in truth, it's not. Now, it's not a bad car to drive, not by any means, but it lacks the spark that the Fiesta has. Let's start with steering as I go into this corner. On the brakes, brakes are good, I must admit. The steering isn't bad, it's got a nice weight to it, I'll tell you that for nothing. But it lacks the crispness of a Fiesta. It's not quite as sweet to use. Now, this car is heavier, bigger and taller than the Fiesta, so the handling is never going to be quite on par with its stablemate. But what is it like? Well, the handling's not bad, body lean isn't too bad, the car feels quite taut. You will need to push it quite hard to get some understeer out of it. So it is relatively fun to drive, but it's not as sweet to drive as the Fiesta. It's difficult to put your finger on, but it lacks that X factor. So let's talk about refinement. Refinement is not too bad in the EcoSport. There is, of course, tyre noise from these rather large 18-inch alloys. but it's not deafening, but it is definitely audible. The wind noise isn't the greatest, particularly on these rather chunky door mirrors. They do generate a fair bit of wind noise, which is a little bit disappointing if I'm going to be honest. So let's talk fuel economy. So this won't be the most frugal engine to have, that would be the 1.5 litre diesel of course, but on a combined run this engine should be able to offer you 54.3 miles to the gallon, and in my experience I was getting around mid to low 40s, so not too bad but not the greatest either. But of course if you do want more economy then take a look at the 1.5 litre diesel, because the 99 brake horsepower unit is able to offer 68.8 miles to the gallon on a combined run, and of course that means it emits less CO2. So it emits 107 grams per kilometre, whereas this engine emits 119. But having said that, you'll pay £165 at VED for both cars. So it's clear that Ford has made improvements to the new EcoSport, but it still isn't quite enough for it to be the best in class. The drive is okay, although it's not the best. It needs to have more space in the back, and the tailgate needs to be redesigned as well, if you ask me. So although the EcoSport is better, it's still not quite living up to its potential. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe for more car obsession.